If you feel like your photos look flat even though they're technically correct and sharp, you're definitely not alone. A lot of photographers hit this plateau where their images are fine, but they still don't feel like you want them to feel. Most people assume they've hit a gear limitation, so they start looking for new bodies or new lenses. In reality, flat photos usually don't have anything to do with the camera at all. They're almost always caused by how the light is used in the scene. When people describe a photo as flat, they're usually reflecting on the lack of depth that the image has. This happens when everything in the frame is roughly lit the same way, and also the direction of light comes from one specific spot, usually behind the camera. There's no visual hierarchy, so the photo feels neutral and forgettable rather than intentional. That kind of light fills in all of the shadows and removes the contrast that gives faces and objects their shape. This is why photos taken in the middle of the day usually look boring, even though there's a lot of light. The sun is high, harsh, and even, so everything gets lit in the same way. In the evening, when light has direction, suddenly the photos look a lot more different because of the light. That's why a lot of photographers choose to shoot in the blue hour or the golden hour. Nothing about the camera changes, only the direction of light does. A better camera can give you cleaner files, better dynamic range, or faster autofocus, but it can't add depth where none exists. If the light is flat, then the image will be flat, no matter how expensive your gear is. This is exactly why experienced photographers can produce professional images with almost any camera. They're not relying on the camera to solve the problem. They're shaping the light before the camera even records it. And this becomes especially obvious when flash enters the scene. A lot of people assume that flash is automatically professional lighting, but used incorrectly, it actually makes photos look even more flat. When you mount your flash on your camera and point it directly at the subject, it recreates the same front lit problem that you had before. The light is small, harsh, and coming from exactly the same direction as your camera lens. That combination removes shadows, removes texture, and makes faces look pasted into the frame rather than being part of the scene. The simplest fix is to stop pointing the flash directly at your subject and instead use the environment. By bouncing flash directly off a wall or a ceiling, you change the direction of the light, and the surface becomes much larger. Instead of a tiny, direct light source, you create a large one that softly wraps around your subject. Because the light now comes from an angle, it produces gentle shadows that add shape and depth without looking artificial. This isn't about using more flash power or complicating the setup. It's about controlling where the light comes from and how it reaches the subject. Another reason why photos look flat is poor separation between the subject and the background. If the subject is pressed right up against a wall or visually blends into what's behind them, the image loses any clarity. Creating separation is often as simple as moving your subject further from the background or choosing a background that has different texture or brightness. Wide apertures can help, but they're not a replacement to thoughtful positioning. Flat photos often come from shooting everything straight on from an eye level and not having any layers in your picture. Introducing foreground elements, changing your angle slightly, or shooting from the side can instantly add depth. These are small adjustments, but this changes entirely how a viewer experiences your image. The way I think about photography now is very simple. Before taking the photo, I focus on where the light is coming from and how it affects my subject. Once light makes sense, the technical decisions become a lot more simple. Camera settings do matter, but they're secondary to the quality and direction of the light. If your photos feel flat, it's worth to take a step back and look at the light before blaming your equipment. Learning how to position your subject and controlling light, especially while using flash, will change your images far more than upgrading your camera ever will. If this kind of breakdown is useful to you, feel free to subscribe. This channel is about understanding photography as a skill and not chasing gear.